guys, Jordan down here at Team Winnebagoland Marine Center, coming back at you with another Fish Friday. So this week we are going to revisit the Fox River. I know we talked about it last time, but man, it's on everybody's mind. It's where everybody's at. The Wolf hasn't quite opened up yet in a lot of spots, so a lot of guys are still out on the Fox. Everybody's talking about it. The fish are there heavy, they're biting. For whatever reason, this year seems to be exceptionally well. So today I just wanted to touch base on a couple different tactics that I use mostly in the daytime. So 3 of them. I've got blade baits, hair jigs, and then a jig in plastic. So first off, a couple different styles of hair jigs here that I like to use. Got the marabou, the bucktail, and then the tinsel. So marabou I use when it's really slow. When I really need to entice them, this stuff just like floats in the water. It looks beautiful. Fish tend to grab it when the bite's really slow. Otherwise, if it's not so bad, we're doing pretty well, I'll choose between a bucktail and like this tinsel. Tinsel does all right. Sunny days seems to be pretty good. Otherwise, this bucktail is usually my go-to. And what I'll do on this, because that bucktail is pretty stout, so you're not really ruining any of the action if you put a stinger hook on it. So I tie up my own stinger hooks. I just put a little bead on there with a couple knots underneath. I can kind of show you a close-up in a bit here. But I can transfer these to any different jig. So I just cinch it on there, and I can also remove it, add it to a different jig. What that stinger hook does is, if they're just nipping at the back of the bait, it'll still grab them. I use a size 8 most of the time for that. Size 8 treble hook, eagle claw is usually my go-to. Fishing hair jigs, I mean, there's really not a wrong way to fish them in my opinion. It can vary day to day, you know, depending on how active the fish are. You just got to figure out, you know, what cadence is working best for you that day. Next, I've got the blade baits. So blade baits, once again, are like a reaction strike bait. So you cast these things out. This is a 1/2 ounce, so it's pretty heavy, drops to the bottom quick. You rip it up off and this thing vibrates. It'll grab their attention and it falls fast. So they really don't have a lot of time to react. So they generally grab it quick. You know, they'll pin it to the bottom. A lot of the time you won't even feel them grab it. As soon as that bait hits the bottom, they'll just pin it down. And then when you go to rip up the next time, you'll feel them on there. And then lastly, the jig in plastic. So there's all kinds of plastics out there. Mainly what I use are paddle tails or twister tails. So a couple different options here. I like the Be Fishing Authentics. These are really popular up there. So they're like the twister tail, you've got the Moxie, and then the Pulsar is the paddle tail. So a lot of the time I like to use paddle tails. They just have a little bit more vibration. You can feel that when you're pulling it. A lot of the time the water is fairly stained up there, so I do like to use a paddle tail. But on certain days they do want the Moxie as well. And just lastly, over the weekend I was in my buddy's boat. We didn't have forward facing sonar, but we were fishing next to a guy that did. And I hate to admit it, but he probably caught 3 2R1. So he was using Mega Live, and he was sharp shooting fish off the side of the boat. So he had it rigged up similar to this. From what I could tell, it was actually the same mount. So the mount that we have on here is made by Geiger Tech. We actually bought it through Johnson Outdoors. It seems to be a pretty popular mount and pretty efficient. But anyway, this guy was using it, just pounding them. It was pretty embarrassing. But if you are looking for something like that, we do have them in stock. So stop down, talk to me, and see if we can get your boat rigged up for it. Thanks.